If you're over 60 and still pleasuring yourself the same way you did decades ago, you might be unknowingly harming your blood flow, prostate health, and even your capacity for intimacy. The scary part, you won't feel warning signs. The damage happens silently until one day your body simply stops cooperating. When that moment comes, most men are left bewildered, embarrassed, and wondering what went wrong. I'm not trying to frighten you. I want to share what nobody else is talking about, not your physician, not your buddies, and certainly not mainstream sources. After 30 plus years as a urologist specializing in men's health, I've witnessed countless patients fall victim to the same hidden pitfalls, seemingly innocent habits that gradually erode their well-being, comfort, and self-assurance. Today, I'm exposing the 4 riskiest masturbation errors men make after 60, and more importantly, how to steer clear of them completely. The first one, it's the one most men never think about, but it's quietly affecting your bathroom habits, your sleep, and your prostate right now. Let's start there. My name is Dr. Michael Trent. I'm a board-certified urologist, and I've helped thousands of men over 60 restore their sexual health, protect their prostate, and reconnect with their bodies in ways they never thought possible. Let's get something clear right away. Masturbation itself is not the problem. In fact, some level of sexual expression is healthy at any age. But the way you do it, the posture, the frequency, the pressure, the lack of recovery can either support your body or silently damage it. And the sad truth is most men were never taught the difference. They just kept doing what worked in their 30s or 40s, even when their bodies started changing. And those changes slowed circulation, reduced hormone levels. More fragile tissue mean your old habits can become dangerous if you don't adapt. Mistake number 1 is ignoring your prostate during and after self-pleasure. Let me tell you about a patient of mine. He was 68, relatively healthy, active, and not on any major medications. He came in complaining about a strange feeling after climax, not pain exactly, just a nagging pressure, a sense that he wasn't fully relaxed, like something was stuck or tight in his lower pelvis. He had no infections, no stones. His PSA was normal. But when I asked him to walk me through his routine, he said, "I've always done it this way." And that's what made the damage so dangerous. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, familiar, and slowly wearing down one of the most sensitive parts of his body, his prostate. After 60, the prostate becomes more vulnerable. It's a small gland, about the size of a walnut, but its role in male health is enormous. It helps produce seminal fluid, supports bladder function, and plays a key role in your overall pelvic stability. Mayo Clinic notes that prostatitis involves inflammation of the prostate and perineal area, often causing pelvic pain or urinary symptoms in older men. That's why prolonged pressure on the perineum, especially when slouched or leaning forward during self-pleasure, can increase the risk of chronic inflammation. And if you skip urination after climax, you're making it worse. The Cleveland Clinic explains that urinating post-climax helps clear residual fluid from the urethra, reducing irritation and lowering the risk of prostate congestion. Here's where the damage begins. Most older men masturbate while sitting down. That's not inherently bad, but the way they sit is usually slouched, leaning forward, or sitting on soft surfaces that press directly into the perineum, the area between the scrotum and anus. That spot lies right over the prostate. When you apply pressure there, especially repeatedly, it creates irritation, congestion, and inflammation in the gland. Now add to that another common behavior, skipping urination after climax. When you don't urinate afterward, residual semen and fluid can stay trapped in the urethra and prostate ducts. That stagnation becomes a breeding ground for chronic inflammation. Over time, that can lead to a condition called chronic prostatitis. where the gland stays mildly inflamed, creating a host of frustrating symptoms. Most men never realize it's happening. They chalk it up to aging. But here's what I see in my office every week. A man over 60 who tells me he wakes up 2 to 3 times a night to urinate, feels pressure or tightness in the pelvis after intimacy, has a burning sensation when peeing, always feels like he didn't empty his bladder completely, has lost sensitivity during arousal but doesn't know why. All of these can be linked back to how you treat your prostate during and after self-pleasure. So what can you do? Start by changing your position. Instead of slouching in a chair or leaning forward, try lying flat on your back or sit upright on a firm surface that doesn't press into your pelvic floor. Avoid tight underwear or anything that compresses the area. Second, always urinate after climax. This simple habit flushes the urethra, clears stagnant fluid, and reduces the chance of lingering irritation or bacteria. Third, relax your pelvic muscles. Don't clench or push during climax. Let your body release naturally. You'd be surprised how much tension men carry without realizing it. And finally, stretch your pelvic floor gently. Movements like deep squats or child's pose can help relax the region, improve blood flow, and keep the tissue healthy. You don't need medication to protect your prostate. You don't need supplements or surgeries. You just need to stop hurting it without knowing it. Your prostate doesn't scream when it's unhappy. It whispers. It tugs. It makes your nights restless and your days uncomfortable. And most men don't connect the dots until the damage is done. But if you're watching this now, you still have time. You can undo the strain. You can protect your future comfort. You can sleep through the night again. You just have to start treating this part of your body with the care it deserves, because the next mistake, it doesn't just affect your body. It affects your brain, your reward system, and your ability to feel anything at all. That's what we'll talk about next. Stop mistake number 2, relying on pornography as your only source of arousal. This is one of the most silent but devastating habits I see in older men today, and it's not just a moral conversation. It's a biological one. Let me explain. A man in his late 60s once sat across from me, looking embarrassed and unsure. He said, "Doctor, I don't feel anything anymore. Not unless I'm watching something." And even then, it's not like before. He wasn't alone. I've heard the same thing from hundreds of men over 60. They're not addicted necessarily. They're not even watching excessive amounts. That they've trained their brains over decades to only respond to digital stimulation. Here's the science behind it. When you watch high-speed, high-stimulation content, your brain releases large amounts of dopamine, the neurotransmitter tied to pleasure, reward, and motivation. A 2016 study from Cambridge University found that men with compulsive pornography use showed reduced activity in brain regions responsible for reward processing and emotional sensitivity, particularly in the striatum and prefrontal cortex. These are areas critical to motivation and bonding in real-life intimacy. The problem? Real-life touch, real-life connection, and even memory-based arousal can't compete with that artificial intensity. So what happens? Your brain adapts. It gets used to those spikes in dopamine, and like any system that's been overstimulated, it starts to dull its response. What used to excite you now feels flat. What used to create arousal now takes more effort, more time, more extreme content. It's not about shame. It's about chemistry. Over time, this shift desensitizes the reward center in your brain. You feel less. You want more stimulation, but get less satisfaction. You crave arousal, but can't find connection. And this has very real consequences, not just in your solo habits, but in your relationships. Men begin to feel numb, disconnected, frustrated, and in many cases ashamed, not because of what they're doing, but because they don't feel like themselves anymore. I've had men tell me they can't enjoy intimacy with their partner. They feel emotionally distant. They don't know why they're irritable or sad, even when everything else in their life seems fine. This isn't in your head. It's in your wiring. And the good news, it can be retrained. Here's how to first reduce the use of visual content gradually. You don't have to quit overnight, but shift toward fantasy, memory, or even sensual reading. These forms of stimulation are slower, less intense, and help retrain your brain to enjoy subtlety again. Second, create space between the urge and the action. Don't reach for a screen the moment arousal begins. Instead, sit with the feeling, let it build. Learn to experience arousal without needing extreme input. Third, reconnect with your body. Place your focus on sensation, not climax. On breath, not speed. The goal isn't performance. It's present stat, and if you feel numb, that's okay. It's not permanent. The brain is incredibly adaptable, even after 60, but like any recovery, it takes time, intention, and patience. Remember, pleasure doesn't disappear. It just gets buried under overstimulation. And with the right shifts, you can uncover it again. Now, let's move to the third mistake, one that affects not just your brain, but your entire energy system. Mistake number 3, masturbating too frequently for your energy and hormone levels. There's a common belief that ejaculation is always healthy, that it relieves stress, helps with sleep, and supports prostate health. But here's what most men don't realize. After 60, your body doesn't recover the same way it used to. Your testosterone levels are lower. Your nervous system resets more slowly, and your overall energy is more precious than it once was. When you ejaculate too frequently, especially out of boredom, stress, or habit, it can drain your system in subtle but serious ways. One of my patients, a 71-year-old retired engineer, came to me complaining of fatigue, brain fog, and low motivation. He exercised well, slept enough, but he still felt tired, flat, disconnected from the world. After a few questions, we discovered he was masturbating nearly every day, sometimes twice a day, not out of desire, but out of routine. He thought it was helping him relax. In reality, it was slowly depleting his vitality. A 2020 meta-analysis published in the journal The Aging Male confirmed that frequent ejaculation in men over 60 is associated with lower testosterone, poor sleep quality, and increased fatigue. The authors noted that age-related slowdown in hormone recovery makes overstimulation a hidden driver of long-term energy loss. Here's what happens internally. Each ejaculation triggers a cascade of hormonal activity, oxytocin, prolactin, dopamine, of which shift your brain and body into a different state. That's normal. But in older men, this recovery process is slower. Frequent ejaculation can lead to decreased testosterone production, poorer sleep quality, reduced drive and motivation, mood swings and irritability, and pelvic muscle fatigue. The scariest part, it doesn't hit you all at once. You don't feel it after one time or even 5. But after weeks, months, or years of overuse, you start waking up groggy, your mood drops, your interest in life fades, and you don't know why. You think you're aging, but really your body is asking for balance dot. So how much is too much? There's no one-size-fits-all number, but for most men over 60, 2 or 3 times per week is a good ceiling. For others, once a week feels better. What matters is how you feel afterward. Do you feel energized, clear, calm? Or do you feel flat, tired, empty? Listen to your body. It's smarter than any guideline. Also, consider experimenting with arousal. Without ejaculation, this is not about denial. It's about mastery, about learning to build sensation without draining your system. Some men call it edging, others call it retention. Whatever the name, the goal is the same: awareness. You don't have to stop. You just have to adjust. At this stage in life, strength doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from respecting your rhythm, from giving your nervous system time to reset, from learning that pleasure is deeper when it's not rushed out. So far, we've talked about protecting your prostate, retraining your brain, and honoring your energy. But there's one more mistake, one that ties them all together. One that can quietly rob you of confidence, comfort, and control without ever making a sound. That's the final mistake we'll explore next. Mistake number 4, ignoring recovery after climax. This is the quietest mistake of them all because on the surface it looks like nothing. You finish, you move on, you get dressed, you check your phone, you sit down to watch TV, you think it's over. But what your body needed, what it was asking for, you never gave it. Let me explain. After climax, your nervous system shifts gears. It goes from a state of excitement and arousal called the sympathetic mode into rest and recovery, the parasympathetic mode. In younger men, the transition happens smoothly, quickly, naturally. But in men over 60, it takes longer and it needs more support. A 2021 review published in Current Aging, science noted that the parasympathetic rebound phase after orgasm plays a critical role in restoring vascular tone, emotional regulation, and pelvic relaxation, especially in aging. Men whose autonomic nervous system recovers more slowly with age. Here's what I see happen far too often. A man finishes a session and immediately moves on, no cool down, no breath work, no attention to his posture, hydration, or pelvic muscles. He might slump into a chair, stay sedentary, skip urinating, stay in tight clothes that keep pressure on his lower abdomen. And he doesn't realize that the tension he feels later that day, the bloating, the irritability, the fog is partly because his body never completed the recovery process. It's like sprinting a lap. Then sitting down and holding your breath. That tension stays with you. Your nervous system stays slightly activated. Your pelvic muscles stay tight and your prostate stays compressed. It builds slowly until you notice things aren't working like they used to. So what does healthy recovery look like? First, give yourself 2 to 5 minutes of stillness after climax. Just breathe. Stay aware of your body. Notice any tightness in your hips, thighs, or lower back. Gently shift into a more relaxed posture lying on your back, knees bent, or in child's pose if you're flexible. Second, drink water. Climax uses fluid. Replacing it helps your system flush out residual byproducts and support circulation. Third, urinate even if the urge isn't strong. Emptying the bladder helps prevent inflammation, especially around the prostate. Fourth, avoid staying seated for too long. A short walk, even around the room, can reset blood flow and release pelvic pressure. And finally, reflect. Ask yourself how that experience left you feeling, not to judge, but to observe. Was it draining or nourishing? Was it rushed or present? This small moment of reflection becomes your roadmap for change. You don't need a strict schedule or a set of rigid rules. What you need is awareness, respect, curiosity about how your body speaks now, not how it used to. Because after 60, everything shifts, and that's not a loss. It's an invitation to move slower, to feel more, to touch with care, not urgency, to build intimacy not just with others, but with yourself. Let's recap the 4 mistakes. Ignoring your prostate during and after self-pleasure, especially through poor posture and skipping post-ejaculation. Urination, relying on porn as the only form of stimulation, which trains your brain to crave unnatural input and disconnects you from real pleasure. Masturbating too frequently for your current energy and hormone levels, which slowly drains motivation, clarity, and emotional balance. Neglecting recovery after climax, which disrupts your nervous system and creates hidden tension in your pelvic floor. None of these mistakes are shameful. None of them mean you failed. They're simply signals, invitations to shift. And here's the good news. You don't need a prescription. You don't need a new identity. You don't need to stop being sexual. You just need to listen, to adjust, to treat yourself like someone worth protecting, because you are. Your pleasure matters. Your energy matters. And the way you touch yourself can either damage you slowly or heal you deeply. It's your choice. And if you're watching this, I know which one you're ready to make, but avoiding mistakes is just the first step. Even if you stop doing them, your body might still need help recovering its circulation, its vitality, and its spark. That's why the next video is essential. In it, I'll show you the exact foods backed by clinical studies that improve blood flow, support testosterone, and help restore the energy you thought was gone for good. Click here to watch Urologist. Eat these nuts to improve circulation. And male vitality after 65. Your body is waiting. Let's give it what it needs.